Good evening and welcome to the Greenfield Public Schools School Committee meeting for Wednesday, November 13th, 2024, 6 o'clock p.m. This meeting is being recorded by GCTV. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. I don't see any. Secretary Geneve, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Member Goodwin?
Here.
Member Childs?
Here.
Member Sexton?
Here.
Chair Johnson-Masad?
Here.
Vice Chair Martini?
I'm here online.
She's on Zoom.
I don't see her.
Yes, I'm here.
Great.
Thank you.
Secretary Geneve, I'm here. Mayor DeSorger? Okay, so all present except for Mayor DeSorger. We have a quorum.
Great. We have a quorum, a meeting called to order at 6:01 p.m. So I want to just say up front, there's new language in our agenda that was put in at the request of the town clerk. It says no discussion or comments will be entertained unless requested upon by the chairperson of the board or committee. I request all of your comments. I want to hear from everybody who came to talk to us tonight. Public comment will proceed the way our normal policy is, which is each person gets a 2-minute turn. And so we'll start with the people we'll start with the people in the room, and then we will move to the folks on Zoom. Susan Farber, do you want to?
We're doing 2 minutes. I'm sorry. We're doing 2?
2 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
Our policy says 2 minutes. At the last meeting, we have been doing 3 minutes, but we found out that our policy said 2 minutes. So we decided last meeting we would continue with the precedent of 3 minutes and then start again at this meeting following our policy, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll speak very quickly if it's 2 minutes. I've been closely following the public discussion at city meetings and on social media about safety in Greenfield schools. Unfortunately, most of what is said is one opinion versus another opinion. It's not about evidence that demonstrates what makes schools safe. I would like to commend the school committee of a few years ago for doing their homework and doing an extensive study of all the evidence and then making a decision based on this evidence that SROs would not offer an effective way to make schools safe. I would also like to commend the majority of the current schools committee to support that decision. I will also ask those who are shaming the school committee for this vote by saying the school committee doesn't care about the safety of the students, because they voted to not do the same study they already did. Maybe those shaming didn't bother to look through the extensive study the school committee did. Likewise, I'll be happy to supply all the evidence that supports what I'm about to say. 80% of school shooters were bullied in their schools. Armed police in schools where school shootings have taken place have not lowered the number of injuries or fatalities. All students feel safe in school where there is virtually no bullying because they are taught how to be active bystanders when bullying occurs in person or online and the bullying stops. They are taught to do this by teachers and trained counselors. Students feel safe in schools where they are taught conflict resolution skills, and I won't go through all of them here now. They are taught to do this by teachers and trained counselors in advisory programs each year. Each adult is trusted and accessible, and when conflicts occur, all the adults in the building are trained to sit down with the students who...
It's 2 minutes, thank you.
Sorry.
Hello,
Hi, welcome.
Jesus Leva, 88 Deerfield Street, Greenfield. I I want to say thank you to the superintendent for responding to the email in reference to the response that we got from Desi in the state auditor's office regarding the unreimbursed expenses. It sounds like Greenfield is already doing everything that it can in terms of looking for funding. But the second part of what was important in that response is that these expenses that Greenfield has absorbed for many years are in fact state mandated expenses that the state is supposed to be paying, and that they haven't funded in any line item at the state level since 2001. Some of those expenses are now part of the Student Opportunity Act or the Special Education Circuit Breaker, but we've been absorbing these expenses for years, and it has affected our ability to effectively compete against charter schools and other school districts for funding, and that's important, which brings me to the other part of my public comment. Amherst Pelham Regional School Committee last night joined us in the advocacy to look at school choice and charter school public funding. And we have had success in reaching out to some legislators to set up meetings with their constituents on this specific issue, but it is slow going. We are hoping to have one member of the Greenfield School Committee join us in a Zoom meeting with Senator Comerford on November 25th. So if someone might be able to get back to me on that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Skylar and then John.
Hi there. Thanks for having this meeting. I'm Skylar Lambert, and I live on High Street in Greenfield. I'm here to speak in opposition for placing an SRO in the Greenfield public school system. Recently, the Communities That Care Coalition administered student health surveys to 8th, 10th, and 12th graders in Franklin County in the North Quabbin region. And I really think that the surveys reveal some key findings for this discussion. Primarily, the CCC report shows that in the categories of bullying and substance abuse, Black students fell into the lowest range as defined by the U.S. Department of Education, meaning they're at higher risk of being bullied and are more predisposed to substance abuse. It's also notable that Latinx students also fell into the lowest range for substance abuse. Furthermore, only 51% of students agreed with the statement, "Students in my school treat each other with respect," and only 46% of 8th graders agreed. But the most troubling data is in relation to empathy. Only 41% of students agreed with the statement, "At this school, students talk about the importance of understanding their own feelings and the feelings of others." 45% agreed with the statement, "At this school, students work on listening to others to understand what they are trying to say." That's less than half of students. The answer here is clear. Helping students engage in active listening and engage with their own emotions are key to solving some of these problems and creating a culture of respect. These solutions don't require law enforcement, but rather folks in the helping fields, social workers, counselors, human services workers. Let's open our hearts and minds to alternative community safety practices grounded in human well-being and anti-racist principles. It would behoove the Greenfield School Committee to investigate practices that reveal root causes and address cycles of harm and punishment. Thank you.
John and then Susan.
Good evening. John McGee, Green Street. I am a proud GPS parent, and as such, I wanted to say thank you to the school committee for all your hard work. Thanks to the school staff and administration also. I would like to comment on the debate about putting police back in the schools. I have studied police for years, and knowing everything that we know today, it makes no sense to me to put police officers back in our schools. It is magical thinking to assume that one cop across a handful of schools is going to make all of our boogeymen go away. And the sad truth is that we are all vulnerable. There's no shortcut around the hard work of building safe and caring learning environments. I'm proud our school committee chose in 2020 to do what they can to opt out of the school to prison pipeline. I'm also proud that we elected folks who are serious about making our schools more inclusive and welcoming and taking care of kids even when they make mistakes. Let's invest in training school personnel in those skills. My understanding is that Superintendent Patnode and her predecessors have not yet taken significant steps in the direction of restorative practices, but I'm eager to hear the update tonight. I hope that we're making progress. I encourage you, Ms. Patnode, to work with the school committee to implement a restorative justice program to resolve conflicts peacefully and stop cycles of harm. I also hope that we can improve communications between the school district and families. It sounds to me like, from the complaints that I have heard, when there's a lack of good information, it creates space where rumors can thrive and trust is lost. Okay, so
Thank you.
anyway, thank you all, and carry on.
Susan, and then Andrea.
Thank you. My name is Susan Wergaftig. I live on Forest Avenue. As a former teacher, albeit one who worked in that profession many years ago, I can honestly say that the amount of time that I was trained in age-appropriate and culturally appropriate discipline for my students was minimal. I taught high school in East Harlem and the Upper West Side of New York. As this was a period of major school overcrowding, I taught in auditorium balconies and cafeterias while another class was sharing the space. Rarely did I have a classroom. Students often came to school with knives in their pockets and occasionally guns. I was never taught how to deal with disruptive students or even how to ask a student to give me their weapon. While I do not assume that the Greenfield public schools are in the same category as the conditions of the New York public schools when I taught, I am uncertain that teachers are given much more training and discipline than I was. I know that when teachers do not have the tools to discipline students for normal student-to-student or student-teacher infractions, and there is an SRO on the premises, there is a tendency for teachers to ask the SRO to provide the discipline. And that often leads to the beginning of the school-to-prison pipeline. I would like to suggest the Greenfield's public schools invest in a significant effort to train all teachers and administrators in age-appropriate and culturally appropriate discipline, and that this training be rigorous and thoughtful. After this training has been instituted and the results of it fully evaluated, then it would be worthwhile for the school committee to review the safety situation of the Greenfield public schools and determine if an SRO is appropriate. My guess is it won't be. Thank you.
Andrea, and then Stella.
Hi, I'm Andrea Michael. I live on James Street in Greenfield. I am a parent of a sixth grader who is at Greenfield schools. Both my children went to elementary school here, and both of my nephews graduated from Greenfield High School. So while I'm not an expert in SROs, I'm not really an expert in safety, and I don't have a lot of statistics to read. I have been around our schools a fair amount, and I've talked to a lot of the kids who are in our schools, and I have not heard a lot of concerns about safety except during the pandemic. My son, who's in sixth grade, I asked him, do you feel safe at school? He said yes. He's a kid who probably would feel safe, so I'm sure that there are kids who don't, but I he said he would be scared if there was an officer at school. And he really was confused as to why anybody would think there would be and a need for that. And I frankly am also. In my profession, which is product management, we spend our time, like my expertise is find out what are the problems, talk to the people who have the problems, figure out the best solutions, and think about how you can best spend your capital to solve those problems. And I'm not really seeing that in this discussion as to, is there a problem? What's the best solution? It seems like people are just jumping to a conclusion about what the best solution should be based on, I really don't know what. So I know we did a lot of studies in the past. I think those were good, and we should just refer to those and stick with what we decided a while ago. Thanks.
Stella, followed by Chief Dodge.
Hi everyone, I'm not here to talk about an SRO, but I have something to say anyway. I'm Stella Verlander, I live on 18 Pond Street. So I recently just got off a meeting with some Massachusetts climate groups, and this was brought to my attention, and I really think that this would be very important to implement into our schools, so I just want to put it on your radar. So the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center is launching a Green School Works program, which is set to decarbonize K-12 school buildings. This prioritizes Title I schools, so this would apply to our district. And there's over $50 million in funding. It may be like way over that, but the numbers got kind of mixed on the website. I believe that this would be most impactful in cases of solar and charging ports for electric school buses. I know that the city has looked into electric school buses. However, charging ports looked like it would have been an obstacle, so I believe that this would be important to use for charging port money. The money for this program is non-competitive, and the applications for this open in January. I think that this is very important. I work with many climate resilient groups, especially focused on education, and this is a rare opportunity that I think we should definitely take advantage of as soon as possible. I think this is something that would be most applicable to the schools that are higher in energy usage, like the middle school, Newton, Four Corners, and Federal Street. Our high school is pretty good about energy usage, but also I feel like solar panels would definitely be useful, but I just wanted to put that on your radar. Thank you.
Chief Dodge, and then Rebecca.
I come in peace. I'm also not here to discuss the SRO. What I am here to discuss is thanks to the superintendent and the assistant superintendent for a ton of hard work that they've been doing recently. I thought you guys should be aware of the fact that communication between the police department and the school department is probably as strong as it's ever been. A lot of initiatives are underway, all thanks to the superintendent. We've met several times now. We've had great conversations. Every initiative underway is keeping the student and faculty safety in mind. So a couple of things just took place today. I'm not going to get into what we're doing in terms of securing the schools for obvious reasons, but they're really good steps. I do still support an SRO, but again, I'm not here to talk about that. That's just my side of it. But again, I appreciate it, Karen, for all your work, Stephen. And I see no reason why it won't continue. So I think at this point in time, with the communication going on between us, the schools are probably as safe as can be right now. So just wanted to pass that on. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Moretti. I live on Shattuck Street. I have a 4-year-old at AEL and an 8-year-old at FSS. And I'm really confused as to why everybody's angry. All I keep hearing is people are mad, and Facebook has apparently blown up. I'm not on Facebook on purpose, so I don't hear all of that, but I'm still getting rumors that don't seem to be substantiated in any actual fact. As far as I can tell, all of our schools seem to be safe, and I appreciate that. FSS has a focus on being friendly, safe, and successful, and my child keeps coming home with little green waves, and she's excited to go to school. She loves school. My little one can't wait to get there, and she can't wait to come home. What I would like is more communication so that I have any idea as to why people get mad, and I want real information, not rumors. I don't know what the solution to that is, but I would like some sort of letter that comes home to the parents in a way that I can access it without being a Facebook parent. I get the newspaper, so I get the op-eds, which have also been very angry. But again, there's no actual facts in those. Those are just opinions. And I want to know what's actually happening so that I can be angry or not based on what's actually happening. Thank you.
Molly, and then Natasha.
Hi, Molly Merritt, Solar Way. I'm a Greenfield parent, and I plan to send my child to the public schools. I strongly oppose the idea of police presence at GPS. In 2020, the school community came out decisively against school resource officers after hearing testimony from many students, especially students of color, about the threats, harassment, and intimidation they faced. National statistics show that the presence of SROs has been linked to increased arrests of students for non-criminal behavior, as students are often referred to law enforcement for typical behavior and small infractions. The school to prison pipeline is particularly devastating for students with disabilities and students of color. We may have problems that need to be addressed in our schools, but instead of trying to solve these problems with methods that are proven to be harmful, we have an opportunity to think about what might create a school culture where students can resolve conflict before it comes to a breaking point. Restorative justice programs, such as the highly successful and effective Palante program of Holyoke, give students the tools to bridge differences, solve interpersonal problems, and create safe school environments. One police officer in the school will not create a needed culture shift. It's tempting to have a simplistic solution to a complex problem. But we need to do the work of creating district-wide conflict resolution and transformative justice programming. Materials already exist that we could adapt. Please work to build a robust restorative justice program at GPS. I am not alone in saying that having such a program would make me excited and proud to have a child in our district.
Natasha, and then Doug.
Hi. Yes, so I'm here about the SRO issue, and I would like to express my opinion in that I am very much against an SRO in the schools. I echo what everyone has said before me, in particular what John said about embracing and supporting children even when they make mistakes. And as Molly also pointed out just before me, police intervention is proven to impact and harm students of color in particular, and putting them on a road to involvement with the criminal justice system, and finding solutions that are holistic and get at the deep root of the problems seems to me something that makes a lot more sense. So, and also thank you so much for all your hard work, and for those of you who were on the committee in 2020 for making that really mindful and thoughtful decision. So thank you.
I'm from Greenfield.
Good evening, Doug Selwyn, Forest Avenue. Want to echo what people have said to this point and won't repeat it. And again, Paul Jablon's My Turn today, I think, laid out a pretty clear plan for some things we could do. What I want to suggest tonight is that now that ballot question 2 has passed and that we are no longer required to do a forced march of our children to high-stakes testing at the end of the year, we have the opportunity to refocus what we offer our young people in schools. We can focus more on what engages them, what matters to them, what gives them a sense of hope and possibility and connection. We can pay more attention to helping them to learn about taking care of themselves and each other, to learn to listen, to think critically and calmly about the ideas of others, and to care for the community. We can help teachers to become more skilled and practiced at working with children beyond their subject areas, which means more consistent paid professional development. We can help our schools pay enough so that the core of educators can afford to stay and develop a culture and community that welcomes all the children. We can bring in more social workers and counselors and folks who can help the community learn to develop the supportive community we would like to see. It's an opportunity we have, and I know we're doing some of that now, but I think we have room to do more, and I think that will address the safety concerns that we all share. The other thing I want to say is what Stella said earlier. The climate resilience program is something that I really hope we can join with. Thank you, and thank you for all your work.
Is there anyone else?
Where am I now? Good evening. Hi, my name is Andrew Petitdemange. I'm on Cleveland Street. Thanks for the time to share my perspective on the school resource officer. All of us here are lucky to live in Greenfield, a safe town and a safe region, and we all want Greenfield Public Schools to be places where students feel safe, supported, and empowered to grow. Schools should nurture the whole child, academically, socially, and emotionally. In recent years, many districts across the country, including Greenfield, have turned to SROs to maintain safety on campus. But the question we must ask ourselves is, are SROs truly helping our students? Or are they reinforcing harmful systems that disproportionately affect our most vulnerable populations? School resource officers often do the opposite of what we might hope by creating a culture of fear and punishment rather than understanding and healing. Research has shown that the presence of SROs can disproportionately harm students with disabilities, students of color, and poor students, increase criminalization of minor infractions, and escalate conflicts. I have 2 children in our school system. Both have ADHD. One has autism. This means they don't process information in a way that an authority figure might expect. They can be impulsive and often need more time to understand what is being asked of them and more time to respond. If a police officer is present, statistically, this makes school less safe for my kids and for many kids just like them. There is hardly a shred of evidence that demonstrates the effectiveness of SROs. In fact, much of the research concludes they are highly ineffective at making schools safer. They are simply the illusion of safety despite the community's best intention. Therefore, instead of policing our students, we should invest in restorative justice practices because there is ample evidence that it works. Restorative justice builds empathy, accountability, and conflict resolution skills, helping students heal and grow from their mistakes, skills that will help them throughout their lives. It fosters a supportive environment that prioritizes social and emotional health over punishment, ensuring every child has the opportunity to thrive. Let's choose healing over harm and transform our schools into spaces of care, not criminalization. Thanks.
Thank you. If we're done with public comment in the room, we'll move on to the Zoom. If you wish to speak from Zoom, please enter it in the chat. I will start with the first person who requested to speak. That's Patty, P-A-T-T-Y, O'Neill with 2 L's on Glenbrook Drive.
Hi. I also wanted to comment on the SRO issue. I I did attend the public safety presentation with the where the SROs presented their experiences, and also the meet and greet. And I thought the SROs who had been working as SROs and the ones who were wanting to all seemed like very caring people. They spoke about supportive roles, building relationships with the students, befriending them, checking in and mentoring, and just kind of showing up, which I thought was really great and surprising. However, I'm still not sure why these kinds of supportive roles couldn't be provided nested in like a community institution rather than a police institution where there is a lot of there's just been a lot of traumatic experiences for people. It's not an institution that has the best track record of accountability. I would be worried about like maybe these SROs would be nice to, really top tier, thoughtful, engaging people. But what if SROs who came after weren't of the same caliber? I looked through Reddit about this topic, and it seems like it can be a mixed bag sometimes. Like you have these really good people who could be like these SROs that I met, but there have also been...
That's time, Patty.
Okay, well, I just hope that we can support the community to fill these roles, and like someone else mentioned, it sounded pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Melissa Webb on Grove Street.
Hi, Melissa Webb, Grove Street. I'm on my phone, so I don't know if video... Oh. Okay, it is unmuted. I was just calling because I know we're also discussing budgets and going to PTOs. And we also have the fifth graders coming back into the elementary schools. I know one of our focuses has been to increase more music, art, and gym time. And I just hope that we can really keep on that path to have, a one full-time person for art, a one full-time person for music, and a one full-time person for gym in all three of the elementary schools. And that possibly we could talk about bringing back those programs into AEL on a regular basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Charity, if you can say your first and last name in your town.
Hi, I'm Charity O'Connor, Linden Avenue in Greenfield. I am a licensed school counselor and also the parent of a newborn who will be in the Greenfield Public Schools eventually. And I just mostly wanted to affirm and appreciate the school committee for engaging with the topic of SROs so thoughtfully, and in particular for standing by their 2020 decision to remove the SRO position. Like so many before me, I agree and understand the evidence that points to really immeasurable harm that happens when SROs are in our schools. But I also feel a sense of frustration about just sort of the cyclical nature of this debate. We spend so much time focused on SROs in particular. The school committee has done such a wonderful job reviewing the evidence and making a decision. I would love to see us move forward using our imagination collectively about what safety could really look like beyond that topic. I think there's so much that folks have named around restorative justice, transformative justice, that could really lead us in a direction that's far more productive and supportive of our students and our community. And I really want to sort of reiterate the idea that we should be listening and taking our cues from the students themselves. What would make them feel safe? What are they noticing in school that's working, that's not working? I'm really curious about how we can continue to get their input about this topic. So yeah, I want to reiterate how harmful I think SROs are, and thank the school committee, and encourage all of us to come together to figure out what safety looks like beyond the sort of carceral complex that we've been discussing so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Crystal Cleaver?
Hey, sorry, just trying to find the mute button. Hi, I'm Crystal Cleaver, 45 Russell Street. You guys heard from me last meeting, so I won't take a ton of time. But I just do want to say a few more words. I talked last month about my son and about my concerns about having SROs in the school. I stand by that, but I also just wanted to mention that after the meeting last month, hold on, I'm on the phone, sorry. The family that spoke about their child being assaulted at the high school was in the lobby. And you know, we are in a particularly sort of like us-them time in history, I think. And I felt really moved by what they said and how abandoned they felt by our school system when their child was hurt. And I am a social worker in the community. And so I went out and I spoke with them and offered my number and said that I could try and help connect them to any kinds of supports or services that they needed. I don't know if that was offered by the school system or not, but they didn't feel like it was offered by the school system. They felt like they weren't heard, they weren't responded to. And so although I am on the opposite side of the issue of that family, I do think that we need to think about how we're responding when violence happens in our schools and make sure that families, because that child was hurt, but that whole family was hurt. That whole family walked away traumatized. And, you know, I'm not in the school system. I don't know how it was handled. I know how that family felt like it was handled. And I know that when you're in a moment of trauma, sometimes your thinking brain goes offline. And so maybe they were offered supports, but they weren't able to take it in that time. And so I'm hoping that incident gets looked at. I'm hoping that there's a review of that incident and that we think about how things could have gone better for that child and that family. Because I think that incident is part of the reason we're having this conversation. I don't know that a school resource officer could have changed the outcome for that family, but I think that there are a lot of other things that could have happened. In 1 second, buddy. That could have happened for that family to walk away feeling safer and better about their child being in the Greenfield Public Schools. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ella?
Hi, Ella Condon, Precinct 8 in Greenfield.
Ella, can you spell your last name, please, for the minutes?
Condon.
Thank you.
I wanted to thank the committee for their 2020 decision of pulling the SRO and for holding that line recently. But I also wanted to echo Charity's comments that I think we need to move beyond this conversation and really start looking at alternatives to an SRO and how we can better support our students when they are in times of emotional distress. Thank you.
Thank you. Maddox?
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yes, and you're Maddox Sprengel, Sprengel.
Yes, you got it. I don't live in Greenfield, but I am a mental health provider in the Greenfield community. Just want to thank you for making this space accessible to folks to join in the conversation. My training and experience has taught me that safety is something that's created in collectively practiced commitments to behaviors of care, acceptance, and skills for managing emotions. And this is something that's created by staff, by parents, by students, and by all of us in the community. So the idea that safety could be provided by one individual through the threat of punishment or force, it's misguided and it's dangerous. And it's also a missed opportunity. So instead of spending dollars towards an SRO salary, the money could fund collective skill building, volunteer opportunities, and that would offer a safer and a better social return. Greenfield schools have an opportunity here to invest in foundational skill building where an ethic of care is the priority. And I just want to echo what Charity said about including students in these conversations. They are bright, thoughtful people who also can really reflect and mirror back the treatment that they are being shown by the adults in their lives. And also what Molly said about local school districts like the Palante program in Holyoke who have experience doing this work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Andrew Vernon?
Good evening, everyone. Andrew Vernon, Sunset Square. House. Two things. One, with respect to SROs, I do nothing against SROs. I don't believe that we need them in our school district, but I am confident that something more needs to be done in our school district, given some incidents that have happened against my son. Two, I am fairly confident it's on the agenda, so I'll speak to it. I think it would be good for the school committee to consider, I believe that the business manager position is through a vendor rather than an actual school district employee. I would like to have the school committee consider making that position a true Greenfield Public School employee rather than an outside vendor. Not that that individual or position is doing anything wrong or inappropriate, but just that, in my opinion, should be an actual employee of the school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Eve, you have 2 minutes to share public comment if you wish.
Oh, sure. That'd be great. I'm in my car on the phone. I'm Eve Bogdanov, Bogdanove, and I'm a resident on Shattuck Street in Greenfield. I'm just going to try to summarize my letter because I'm a wordy person, but I will say this. I speak to you as a parent, parent of a former Greenfield public school system, long and respected careers as a social worker, and as a child and family therapist. I listened carefully to the Public Safety Commission and to the SROs who are great when they spoke on October 23rd. And I listened carefully to what they said and how they are effective in their jobs. All of the skills they have and all of the ways they understand and work with kids do not require a gun. So I want the Greenfield Public School System to give training to social workers or guidance counselors or teachers or vice principals, the same level of training that the Montague SRO guides have, because that's what we need. We need transformative justice and we need good social workers because that's what we do. I've been a social worker for over 30 years. And once a gun is involved, it's a different conversation. And instead of getting cooperation, you get compliance and you get an escalation of threat. And that's the worst thing you want to do to a kid who's dysregulated. I will also say that in my career, I've interacted with law enforcement in a number of different ways, from being on the Northwest District Attorney's high-risk team to running an abuse intervention program, to working with clients with pretty significant dysregulation. And the single most effective way to address violence or the threats of violence is to engage, to find out what people's concerns are, to find out what their needs are, to help them feel seen and respected.
That's time.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom who wishes to speak? I see the mayor's joined us for the minutes. Welcome, Mayor. All right. Thank you for the public comment. we'll move on to recognition of Angela Morrissey.
Welcome, Ms. Morrissey. Angela Morrissey is the building monitor at Federal Street Elementary School and was recently awarded the Communities That Care Coalition Mike Fritz Community Builder Award. Angela was nominated by the Federal Street PTO, and her nomination highlighted her positive effect and uplifting spirit as her greatest strengths. As a positive role model for our students, Angela's dedication, compassion, and commitment to inclusion and equity have had a profound impact on the students at Federal Street Elementary. We are certainly grateful for all of her hard work and dedication to Greenfield Public Schools and want to congratulate and honor her tonight. Congratulations. Thank you.
Yay, Angela.
Thank you. Okay. I guess I'll just use this moment while I have everyone's attention to just say how proud I am of the work that I see our Federal Street community doing for our kids every day. Looking around just this room, I see several of our PTO members here. Our principal, Kelly Halpin, is here tonight. And I just, in this time where everybody seems so at odds with each other and so concerned about what we're doing for our students, I want to say that what I see every single day in our school is people doing every possible thing they can to work together to uplift these kids and to make them feel safe, not just in our school, but beyond, to know that we're really here for them in any way that they need us. So, for everybody listening, please just keep your hopes up and don't think that nothing is being done, because there are a lot of people working really, really hard for our kids. Thank you.
We'll go to Kenzie next.
We welcome Mackenzie Paulin, who's a senior at Greenfield High School, and she is here tonight as well to be honored. Today, Mackenzie had a letter of intent ceremony at the high school where she has made her commitment and accepted an athletic scholarship to further her academic and athletic career at Merrimack College. This commitment has allowed Mackenzie to fulfill her dream of playing Division I softball, and Coach Kay and I did a lot of history lessons today, and we think you're the first softball player to go Division I. GHS family, friends, and administrators joined Mackenzie at her National Letter of Intent signing day to celebrate her hard work and achievements. This achievement, however, did not come without sacrifice. She has done hard work and much dedication to the sport of softball. Mackenzie has given up on many adolescent experiences to pursue this dream, and we want to recognize that while challenging, the reward for her is the fulfillment of this dream. The Green Wave Nation is very proud of her and excited for Merrimack College to welcome her into their community next year. Congratulations.
I just want to say thank you so much. It's an honor to be here tonight, and I want to thank Miss Patnode for making today so special. Thank you.
Shane Toomey, will you come up?
I had the pleasure this week, 3 GHS seniors were nominated for the Franklin County Superintendent's Award: Adiana Clough, Jake Rizzardini, and Shane Toomey. This award recognizes one senior from each Franklin County school who not only excels academically, but gives back to school and community and builds a positive culture. I had the pleasure of interviewing all 3 students and had to make the very difficult decision as to who this year's award winner would be. I asked all 3 candidates the same questions, and my last question to all of them was, I've read your resume, I've reviewed your transcript, I read your guidance counselor's recommendation, I've asked you interview questions about your school experience, but what is it that all of that doesn't say about you that you wanted to share? And it was Shane's response to this that really addressed the characteristics of what this award represents. Shane said to me, quote, "A lot of folks think it has been an effortless breeze for me, but that is not inherently true and implies a disconnect with the people around me. The truth is I very much care about the world, about this school, and the people that have been in it with me, some of them since AEL. I have met some of the most interesting people in Greenfield during my school experience, and I'm really grateful for Greenfield Public Schools and all of this. My ultimate goal? Leave the world better than I found it, and I learned that here." It was those words that said to me, congratulations to Shane Toomey on being the award winner. We look forward to celebrating with you at the Tech School on December 5th. Congratulations.
Feels very weird sitting at this table as opposed to over there. I just want to address that. I want to say thank you to Ms. Patnode for carrying out the interviews. I have, as I said, I've been in Greenfield Public Schools my entire life since AEL. It is no secret, as I've seen sitting over there, Greenfield Public Schools, we have our issues, we have our challenges. But despite all of that, I am still incredibly proud to say that I have spent my academic career at Greenfield and will get to finish it off at Greenfield High School. I'm grateful for the people I've met, the teachers who have coached me along the way, and for the opportunities that have been provided. So thank you all.
Okay, so you're going right from being honored to giving a report. We'll now hear the report of student representatives to the committee.
All right, putting on the new hat. So we're going to begin, as we always do, with Student Council. On October 11th, the Student Council sent 18 students to the WMASC Fall Conference in Minnechaug, where they got the chance to meet with regional student leaders from other schools and attended a variety of workshops. Likewise, on October 26th, the officers of the GHS Student Council attended Officer Shop at Worcester Technical High School. This conference is statewide and was intended to provide current and aspiring Student Council officers with networking opportunities, as well as skills and ideas to return to their home councils. As of the writing of this report, the Student Council was finalizing preparations for our November bonding, which will be a lock-in at GHS. Only members who meet set participation and engagement requirements would be able to attend, and we will be doing a variety of activities, games, and workshops. Since then, we have carried out this event, and it was a huge success. We give kudos to everybody who showed up and stayed up all night for 12 hours, and we had a really great time. We're also currently planning for the upcoming Spirit Weeks, Penny Wars, and our November pep rally, which will occur the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
And for Key Club recently participated in the Stoneleigh Burnham Trunk or Treat with over 150 local children attending and completed another GHS campus cleanup. We are planning for our annual turkey trot in November and our donation and participation in the Festival of the Trees and Salvation Army initiatives.
One quick addition, it's not on here, but we do have some athletic recognitions we want to go over. So first off, GHS junior Dylan Breivik is the school's lone qualifier for this weekend's state cross-country meet at Devon, so congratulations to Dylan. Eldarina Ketchunjanan, I'm very sorry for mispronouncing the last name, made all states for girls soccer. She is one of 27 girls in all of Western Mass to be recognized, so both of those are incredible achievements, and we applaud them both.
Drama Club. Drama Club has continued to meet and welcome new members as we prepare for auditions in mid-November. We are very excited to start rehearsals for our play, The Somewhat True Tale of Robin Hood, after Thanksgiving break.
French Club is preparing for our coffee house event on Thursday, December 5th. During the first week of December, discounted $5 tickets will be on sale at GHS lunches, and tickets at the door will be $10. Additionally, that this year's t-shirt design will be made by French Club senior Mac Clark. Library Club hosted the 5th annual Comic-Con last Wednesday. Over 50 people were in attendance for fun sessions, including live-action role-playing, basic comic structuring, and spooky stage makeup. There were some incredible entries to the cosplay contest, and everyone had a great time. We thank the Greenfield Public Library for co-sponsoring this event. Next up is a book-to-movie event on Friday, December 6th at 5:30 p.m. We will be watching Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, which is about an abandoned orphanage for children with special powers. The event is open to the public, and copies of the book will be available to borrow at the GHS and GPL libraries.
Spectrum. Spectrum Club has been compiling a list of new activities we would like to try out this year. There is particular interest in exploring the LGBTQ+ history of Zines, creating our own, and distributing them in school. Members of the club have made positive connections with the Greenfield Public Library, and this month we will be solidifying some ideas about future collaborations.
The school's trivia club team has been prepping for our December 7th televised show versus Suffield High School, and we are adding a third study session after school for the month of November. The students are working hard, and we're making significant progress in various areas of study. And last but not least, the Students of Color Club. The students have created a thoughtful lesson that addresses the impact of slurs and stereotyping and provides tools on how to address them for middle and high school audiences. They will begin to share this lesson to 8th grade advisories in December, and they've been working closely with administration and their mentor from Communities That Care. That covers our report. If you have any questions, we would be happy to answer.
Questions? Not seeing any. Thank you both so much. We'll move on to reports of the administration. Andy, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Great. Forward to your report.
Okay, so you have your monthly report as of the 12th of November regarding local budget and the revolving accounts and the capital accounts. So I don't want anyone to be alarmed, because as we've always done in the past, and even when we haven't been here, the practice is always we're charging things to the local budget first, and then as grants get approved, we end up moving the expenses out of the local budget to the appropriate grants. And then I also, no cause for alarm regarding the out-of-district tuition line that's showing over $2 million in deficit, because our budget was built using $2.4 million of circuit breaker and the special education 240 grant. So that gives us, actually, we are looking at about, for the sped tuition as of right now, about a $70,000 quote unquote contingency based on what we had originally budgeted for. I can take any questions you might have regarding any of this if you so choose.
Questions for Andy? Not seeing any, Andy. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Next item is prior guidance from school committee with regard to format of reports and determination by committee of next steps. There's been some interest in asking Andy to provide not just numerical reports, but also narrative reports. Andy was very open to doing this for us. However, in the past, had received guidance from the school committee that we explicitly telling him not to do that. So we have a little research project to find out whether that's a policy or a vote that was taken, and so on. So yes, please, Andy.
So yeah, it was the 2 times we were here previously in Greenfield. We, as I've said, and we do provide it's like a 1-page cover sheet, quite honestly, memo with the highlights in a narrative form of what it is that I report verbally, and highlighting the, how we're tracking on other funding sources regarding what it is that we use to build the budget on. It's a very simple narrative, but the 2 times previously, there were committee members that told me that, and honestly, I looked through the school committee policy, specifically in the finance section of the policy manual, and I couldn't find anything, which leads me to believe that it was a vote at one time. Because I know when I proposed a suggested change, I think our first time there, it was, I believe, Member Hollins at the time said that, no, this is a format and a agreed upon procedure voted on by the school committee as to how it is that the reports were to be provided. Then the second time, again, superintendent at the time, Superintendent Ewart told us the same thing, that, you know, the format is what was voted on. And then now this time, when Dr. DeBarge started, she asked, because she's familiar with our narrative that we provide, asked why it wasn't done. And again, it was reinforced and reiterated that it was past practice, and the research shows, if I can't find it in a policy manual, doesn't mean that's in another section, but it was, I believe, voted on as a voted practice that this is the format of the reports that the school committee wanted.
So I guess one next step, if we made that vote in the past, we're capable of making a new vote about something else. So I guess I would ask that maybe we take a month and kind of look into it, and I can perhaps come with a motion for the next meeting to request the narrative again. Does any discussion or thoughts about that? I'm not seeing any. Look, got a thumbs up. Oh, great.
I have a question.
Please.
So this relates in part to training that I just attended at the Mass Association of School Committees conference last week. In regards to, I attended many useful workshops there, but one of the most interesting was about what should be in your budget document, which I realize is a separate question from our monthly budget reports, or how we receive that more incremental kind of information. But the information provided was about the Association of School Business Officials Meritorious Budget Award and the process of obtaining it, and what your budget document might look like if you were trying to attain a high level of accessibility and clarity in your budget document. And I asked the question during this workshop from two of the business directors who were presenting as to whether they used this type of document, which did include things like narratives, graphics, things that made the information very accessible in their incremental budget presentations to their school committees, and they both said yes. So this is something that, now that the Budget and Finance Subcommittee has gotten well underway in our recent projects, including the new annual budget development calendar and the process we are currently undergoing of conducting outreach for stakeholder input into the next year's operating budget. I have been thinking that examining how budget information is presented and exploring alternative ways of doing that would be upcoming next project or topic for Budget and Finance. So I just wanted to put that out there in case the committee would like to delegate that research to the Budget and Finance Subcommittee, and we would be happy to take it up and come back with information and options.
Okay, I'm open to a motion to delegate the research of options for the presentation of financial reports to the Budget and Finance Subcommittee to make recommendations.
So moved.
Seconded.
Susan, did you get that? No. Elizabeth made it and Stacy seconded.
Glenn said it.
I did my chairing duties. All right, great. Any discussion? So we'll do the all votes tonight by a roll call. Secretary Geneve.
Hold on one second.
And the votes are by roll call because we have some members participating by Zoom.
Secretary Deneve, I'm a yes. Vice Chair Martini?
Yes.
Chair Johnson-Masad?
Yes.
Mayor DeSorger?
Yes.
Member Goodwin?
Yes.
Member Sexton?
Yes.
Member Childs?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. We'll move on to the report from the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning.
Good evening. So you have in your folder tonight my report. It starts with, I attended the Northwestern District Attorney's Annual Safe and Healthy School Summit and had the pleasure of participating in the Safe School Climate and Culture panel at this year's summit organized by the Northwest District Attorney's Office. The summit's theme was empowering, belonging, connection, and learning, and it highlighted the importance of fostering inclusive and supportive school environments. As part of the event, educators, community leaders, and advocates gathered at Greenfield Community College to discuss strategies for creating safe and welcoming schools where all students can thrive. And I had my first opportunity to include a couple pictures, so. Also excited to announce Greenfield Public Schools Reading Initiative with the Springfield Thunderbirds. This is the first kind of public announcement around this, but there's more in the weeks and months to come. The Greenfield Public School students will have an opportunity to attend a Springfield Thunderbirds hockey game for free. All they need to do is read for 20 minutes a day, 20 times from Thanksgiving through January 6th. We're working with the Thunderbirds to kick off this initiative at the Turkey Trots on November 27th and hope that the Thunderbirds mascot Boomer can join us in visiting Greenfield and all of our schools. The goal is to encourage all of our students to find enjoyment in reading. Improving literacy skills is a major district priority, and this partnership will allow us to incentivize students for reading. All students who complete the reading form will receive a free ticket, and there will be an opportunity for families and caregivers to purchase tickets to attend the game in early 2025. Secretary Deneve last month did ask around a grants update, so I did list out the first section are grants that we've applied for and received. And then the second part of the list are grants that we've submitted applications for and are waiting to hear whether or not they'll be awarded. I did not include entitlement grants like Title I and IDEA on this, but these are grants that we have pursued and received or are in the process of pursuing. And in terms of professional development, we had on Tuesday, November 5th, we had a full day of professional learning across the district. Most educators participated in professional development focused on lesson internalization from our partners at Teaching Lab. In addition to the Teaching Lab training, we also had staff participate in Crisis Prevention Institute training. Many Unit C members participated in strength-based instruction training in which they built off prior learning from August, and our pre-K staff continued their training on growing a culture of care and respect with partners from Greenfield Community College. Beyond those trainings, we also had training and activities on combating chronic absenteeism, our Naviance course selection process, Naviance college application process, best practices with Imagine Learning reports and data, inclusive practices in least restrictive environment, and then Open SIAD training focused on empowering students and providing opportunities for equitable discussion in the classroom.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Good evening. Just a reminder for everyone that our DESE district site review will begin Monday, the 18th. They will be here all next week. DESE hires the American Institute for Research to be on site and to collect all of the data, and then they filter all of the data and will hopefully get a full district report about 4 months after their site. So hopefully in early spring we will get that. They are going to be on site. They're going to do interviews with various teachers, students, counselors, central office staff, etc. They're also hosting numerous virtual interview sessions with other stakeholders, such as the mayor and school committee. They're also participating in a parent caregiver virtual session, but that is requiring a pre-registration. So I have that in my parent update, and I will send it again out tomorrow in my parent update. We have had many families register, so that's very exciting. They said at our meeting yesterday, I believe 17 families had already, and they said that was pretty high for a lot of the site reviews. So if you haven't registered yet and you're interested, the link will be again in my parent update tomorrow, so please do pre-register to be part of that. I included a Green River update. I had a few emails sent to me over the week. As you know, the city took over Green River as of September 1st, but we had had numerous items still stored in Green River, so we were working diligently to try to get the remainder of the materials out of there. We had declared those materials in September as surplus at our school committee meeting, and if you look back at that, there were a lot of notes about many of those materials were there that were just either broken or irreparable. Some had mildew on them and could not be reused. We hired a general contractor, a local one. We gave a small business in town the ability to come and help us dispose of that, and they will recycle all of the metals. So I know people had concerns that that wasn't happening, but it is. We have one more classroom, though, that we have stuff that we will be using, so our maintenance department has to get that distributed to all of our elementary schools because we are obviously planning for redistricting and adding 5th grade to our elementary, so we did need some of the materials there. We also had Boy Scouts and Jadook and a few other community organizations who did actually acquire some of the surplus items. So they have been going to people who could use them. So just wanted to keep people updated on that because I know there was a lot of activity there with the dumpsters and people were trying to figure out what was going on, but we were trying to do our due diligence and get it cleared for the city. I also included a restorative practices update. It has been the topic of conversation, obviously, and much of the conversation around the SRO and what the schools could also be doing. It is something that I am committed to, though. We had tried to start it at the high school many years ago when I was the principal there, and we're on a good track getting many of our staff trained, and we were hosting circles at our faculty meetings. We were teaching our kids how to host circles. We were doing advisories with restorative work, and then COVID hit. And, you know, we're tired of hearing COVID and then post-COVID and all the things that it's ruined, but it is actually an investment, and I'm happy to hear that people understand that in a lot of the conversation because many people think you can just become restorative, that if we just say we are and we want to do it, it'll just happen. But it really does take thoughtful planning and purposeful planning and having stakeholders at the table with the planning, and that includes community members, that includes parents, that includes students. So, you know, we have worked with the collaborative in the past. Stephen and I met with the collaborative yesterday. We also have worked with FRCOG. We went to the Communities That Care Coalition. They had a restorative practice symposium last week that I was a part of with 2 of our Greenfield High School counselors who are restorative practice trained. We brought our nurse leader with us and really just working to figure out this planning year. And so our Director of Behavior Services is going to be charged with forming a committee, getting interested students, faculty, staff, and other stakeholders such as parents or community members who really want to take place and having a voice at the table and planning with us on how we can thoughtfully roll this out. It will require professional development time. It will require an investment of budgetary funds, and it will require the continual practice and implementation. So This is not something that we are not paying attention to, but it obviously is going to take a lot of time and effort to get this done in a way that it is sustainable. And I think that's the important part that we all are worried about, is that we don't want it to be a one and done PD. We don't want it to be something we say we do but aren't embedded in our work. So we will keep you updated as these things unfold, and I will certainly put out there when folks can become part of that committee. We have some staffing updates. We are excited to welcome Ian Edwards as our new Director of Technology. He is slated to start with us on Monday, November 18th, so you can look for him. He's going to be jumping right in on Monday with the IT department. We also have begun interviews. For those of you that know, our Newton Elementary School principal resigned effective November 27th for personal reasons, so we have posted and we have already begun the interview process. We have staff, administration, other elementary principals, as well as parents on the committee, and we've been doing virtual interviews, so we hope to have that position filled quickly. In the interim, though, I did put out a message to Newton families, and I did not see the recorder today, but I've been told there is a story. Mr. Sullivan, Elaine Mount, our Assistant Director of Pupil Services, will also be on site to help out, as well as myself if needed. So I don't want families to feel that there is not going to be administration available, because we will make sure there is. We also have been taking into account that the need for full-time adjustment counselors and registered behavior technicians is evident in our schools. Kids are traumatized. We're still coping with the effects of COVID. We're still coping with kids who need help in how to deal with their emotions and how to deal with behaviors and how to be in a public school setting. So we've added a full-time counselor and an RBT at Newton Elementary to try to help with some of those situations. As always, though, we're still looking to fill some positions, so we have some instructional assistant, custodial, and food service positions posted. We're also always looking for substitutes and volunteers, so if you'd like to come help us out, please just call my office and we will walk you through the easy peasy process so that you can maybe come spend lunch and recess with our kiddos. Last, I'd just like to update, we are continuing with our district learning walkthroughs. Ultimately, students' experiences and what they get and need in terms of education is our top priority. And in order to do that, we have to be in classrooms, we have to see what's happening instructionally with our students, and we have to be taking stock as to what needs to be in place so that teachers can do their job and students can learn. We conducted our second official walkthrough with the Teaching Lab, the professional development partner that we've been working through. And each building principal is working this week with their instructional leadership team in their own buildings to analyze building-based data and also analyze information that was received at the professional development, and we'll be working at that at faculty meetings to come. Stephen and I, though, also are committed to being in buildings more. So we hope teachers are feeling that and seeing us, because we want to make sure that they know we're there to support them and that we're there to help them with anything that they may need. And we also enjoy being in your classrooms and seeing students' joy in their classroom as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the superintendent or the assistant superintendent? Please, yeah.
This is more of a comment than a question. But I just wanted to thank both of you for all of the information that you included in your reports and being really responsive to the inquiries that we make, but also to what you're hearing come from the community. I think that the more, this represents so much work. There is so much work being put in by not only our administrators, but our building staff as well, and everyone who's involved with the enterprise of educating students, which is a lot of people. I think that the more that we can be out loud and proud about this work, the better it's going to be. I think that having this information in hand does help to dispel any rumors that might be out there about what is or is not occurring. And so I think this is work we can be proud of, and we should be really loud with that pride.
Thank you. Response?
And the piece I did leave out, though, that I should have added, we are also in the midst of redistricting. So we did site visits today at the Leiden Woods Community Center and the Oak Courts Community Center. And I've messaged out those families that are affected by the redistricting. And while it's just about 70 or so students that are affected by this, I don't want those families to think that we are not committed to making sure that they're making the best possible educational decisions for their kids. So it may not be always in the reports we put out there because it doesn't affect the whole Greenfield Public School community, but we have not lost sight of that as well.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Kate or the mayor? Just want to make sure I can't see you, so. Okay, not seeing any.
No, thanks.
Okay. I'd like to thank you both for all you do as well. Let's see. Move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda which members would like to consider separately? Yes, Member Deneve?
I was curious about the 2025-2026 GHS program of studies. Is that only available to us digitally? It's not in the packet? Okay. I assumed that it would be a lot of paper. So, all right, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing anything.
Nope, you got it. Great. Any other questions or items? So we'll vote on the entire consent agenda. I'd like to hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Motion from Member Sexton, a second from Member Childs. Any discussion? Secretary Deneve, when you're ready to call the vote.
Deneve, I'm a yes. Vice Chair Martini?
Yes.
Chair Johnson-Mossad?
Yes.
Mayor DeSorger?
Yes.
Member Goodwin?
Yes.
Member Sexton?
Yes.
Member Childs?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to school committee reports. First is the role of the chair. I wanted to address some questions have come up about our role in approving warrants and also public discussion at these meetings about particular invoices. I'd like to start by just acknowledging I don't know everything about this job that I'm in, and I still have a lot to learn. One thing I'm trying to balance is items which are kind of in our role as a school committee and items that are in the superintendent's world. And obviously it's in our role to approve these warrants. We're asked to sign them. At the same time, discussion of like a particular invoice, I feel like if we authorize a budget and authorize spending within a realm, that unless the particular invoice is way outside of what we've authorized the superintendent to spend, then it's not really needed to be discussed at a full committee meeting. I'm not sure about that. I have more to explore and learn, but that's my current take on it. So I guess what I would like to suggest as at least a temporary plan is that if members have questions about a particular invoice, please pick up the phone and call the superintendent, call the business manager. They're available to answer your questions about every single invoice in that packet. After that, if there's something that you still have a question about or seems like a problem, seems inappropriate, doesn't seem like something we authorize the superintendent to spend, bring it to me. I'll put it on the agenda as that particular invoice and we can discuss it in the public session. In the meantime, I will reach out to MASC. Tracy Novak, I guess, has made herself available to just check in because maybe there's something I'm missing or that I need to learn about what our role is with that. So I wanted to share that, and I would take any questions or comments from the committee. Member Goodwin?
I would like us to relook at the process for the signing of the warrants and maybe consider a majority versus just one person being the signatory. I feel like unfortunately, I feel like there's a lot of rubber stamping, and I believe it is our primary responsibility to oversee the financial aspects of running the school department. So one person is signing, I never know who that person is. I see warrants after they've been signed. So I'm asking questions after it's already been acknowledged that the bills are being paid. So there's a lot of, I'm sitting here looking at reports in a different way. I'm seeing a lot of negative numbers. So things are being shifted around. So there are a lot of questions, and I think as a taxpayer, I'm always asking questions about how public money is being used. And so the way we currently do it doesn't give me as a member of the school committee a way to feel like I'm getting questions answered prior to warrants being approved. So I'm just looking for another way. And some school districts do have multiple people being responsible. There's a majority. So instead of one person, and also saying that there's one person who is signed and not who that person is also another thing that I think should be, we document everything through the minutes. That should be something that is also documented somewhere.
I will, just to share a little bit of history. When I came on to the school committee, our process was that a quorum of us needed to actually go in and sign the full warrant. The opportunity came up. There was a change in the law for the school committee could vote to allow a single member to sign on behalf of the whole committee. The committee voted to allow that. Currently, it's a kind of a first come, first serve. If someone gets there and signs it, we can look into that. Maybe we want to designate someone in a particular role or want to designate a particular person. We could also revisit the whole format. So I'd be happy to put that on an agenda for a future meeting for us to take a fresh look at the way the warrants are authorized. If people ever want to know who it is that authorized the warrant, you can contact the business office. Vera, I'm sure would be happy to answer that. I can tell you most of the time it's me. But anyone is welcome to. I don't always have to be the one to do it. Our bills do need to get paid, so someone needs to go in and look at those invoices in a timely manner and sign off on those. That has been me, but I welcome other members to take that on. You just have to, and one way to. I have a reminder set in my phone. It's usually the Monday every other week, so you can set a reminder in your calendar. That's how I do it, to go in and look. Other questions or comments? Secretary Deneve?
I concur with everything that Member Goodwin has said. And one of the things that I asked in Hyannis last week, I asked every committee that I could find what they did with their warrants, how it came up in their meeting. And they all said, well, this is a standing item on our agenda. And really 99% of the time, no one's going to bring up a warrant. Like, I don't care that you have to pay for copy paper. Like, it's of no interest to me. But once in a while you encounter one that you're not familiar with or whose amount doesn't seem maybe correct, and you just want to have a little bit more information. And because it's public money, it really needs to be discussed in a public forum, and it's also an opportunity for us to sort of course correct if we find something that maybe we could be asking about a new contract for a vendor, perhaps, we need to be able to bring it up. So us not talking about it is very out of the norm. This is something that you're expected to talk about, and I don't think any one of us would abuse it in any way or be nitpicky or even talk about it all that much. I mean, we get these things that are like 150 pages long of bills that have to be paid, and everybody just wants to have the bills paid. But it's also our responsibility to scroll through and to make sure everything looks copacetic, and 99% of the time it does. So if there's something that's an outlier, it is absolutely our job to bring it up. And that's what we found in Hyannis. I don't know if you can concur with me, Member Sexton, but that was the viewpoint, was best practices warrants on the agenda at all times.
That is what was brought up by most of the school committees that we did talk to about this and asked what their practice was. I can also say that I don't know how you're defining in a timely manner, but I'm often looking at those warrants within 4 hours of them coming to us, but even still, before I've had a chance to get through them all, they've been approved. So that's part of the processual problem that we're talking about.
Yep, we will have it on an agenda at a future meeting about how the committee wants to handle warrants. We can revisit that. I would say, I see the mayor and Member Martini would like to speak, but I would say that if we do have, if I've been wrong and the past practice of the committee has been wrong and this should be on the agenda as a standing item, I still think it would be courteous and helpful for the superintendent and the business manager to know what people's questions are in advance, so she has a chance to prepare responses. And it's possible that the answer that she gives you would make you feel like perhaps this isn't something that requires the attention of the full committee and the full community watching from home. Member Martini?
I just thought I would add a little bit of my recollection from this previously as well, because I was on the committee during our past practice, which was that 4 members were required to sign off on warrants, and there was a frequent problem with getting all 4 signatures by the time that was required for the bills to get paid. And I recall that being part of the discussion about whether or not we should go to 1 member signing off on warrants. And I'm not really taking a position here about how many members ought to sign off on warrants, but if we're going to discuss this, I think that should be part of the solution, so that we're not stressing out our administrators with the same problem that we used to have. And in terms of other committees and what they do and what have you, I've certainly spent a lot of time going over other committees' materials and things like that, partly, in large part, in the process of creating our annual budget development calendar, because I was looking for precedent in other places. So there certainly are a lot of other committees that have warrants as a standing item on their agenda. So there would be plenty of precedent for that. I'm not sure how that would work with our schedule, because if we have warrants that need to be signed every other week, we don't meet every other week. So that is a question that remains to be answered. Some committees do meet twice a month and we don't. So I would like to hear what options are actually feasible, and if there would be some kind of substantive change that would have to happen in order for that to be a thing.
Thank you. Mayor DeSorger?
So first, I'd like to thank you, Glenn, for being the person that is there and doing the signing. When I first got to be the mayor, there was so much to wrap my head around, and there were these emails that were coming out. Could we please get 1 person to sign the warrant? And it sounded like Vera was waiting for one person. And the first thing I wanted to say was thank you for doing that, because I actually emailed her and I thought, do we have to go there or whatever? Because I didn't want her waiting to have the bills paid. So I'm grateful, very grateful for you doing that. And secondly, I think it's a good discussion for us to have, because if we're, it runs different on the city side. We have 2 or 3 signers, like the accountant and I sign, the accountant signs and I sign, and I go through everything carefully because my signature's on it. And I do think it's a good discussion, because I have never, not once, have I been the person that was the signer, maybe because it took me longer to get there, because I had a lot to do or whatever. But I think if we're all ultimately responsible, maybe there is a different way that we should look at it. So I think, thank you, Glenn, for doing that and for putting it on the agenda for us to go forward, because it sounds like we're all supposed to, acknowledge that, we attest to everything that's on the warrants. So I agree with taking it a step further. Thank you.
You're welcome. Member Martini?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had one thing I forgot to say. I was thinking about some of the work that we did on the handbook, the school committee member handbook, when we were developing that over the course of the summer. And one of the important points in many of the handbooks that I looked at for precedent and guidance about how other committees developed their guidelines for their members was no gotchas, basically, and to please let the superintendent know, or the business manager, or whoever it is that you have a question for, what your question is ahead of time, so that they could be sure to be well prepared when you ask it. If you're not letting them know what your question is beforehand, then they will not have had a chance to go and do whatever fact-finding or research that you need them to do to answer it for you. So I just wanted to echo what Glenn said there. If you have a question about a warrant, please reach out to the superintendent or to the business manager so that they can get that information for you. I'm not saying that we shouldn't put warrants on agendas and talk about them then too, but if we do that, I just want to advise members to please communicate in advance so that you can get the information you're looking for.
Thank you. Mayor DeSorger, is your hand up again?
No, I just forgot to take that hand.
Okay, fair enough. If you were physically holding your hand up, you would probably have noticed, but in the virtual world, it's easy to forget. I guess I'll say one thing until we have a chance to discuss this as a full agenda item. In the meantime, I'll plan to wait 24 hours from when the email goes out to us before I sign off. And maybe we can all plan to do that, give everybody 24 hours to look at it and to ask any questions they may have before someone authorizes it. Anything else on that before we move on? Thanks, everybody. Where are we here? Timeline for discussion of business manager hiring environment and the logistics. At the last meeting, I had agreed to ask Liz LaFond from Mask to come tonight to talk to us about basically what is the hiring environment for business managers. We currently have a contractor, and people are questioning which way we want to go. She wasn't available tonight, but is working on either herself or someone else from Mask coming to join us in December. So that's the update on that. I keep losing my spot here. Okay, Budget and Finance Subcommittee. Member Martini?
Hi. Yeah. Hi, yes. So, as you will know if you have been joining us recently, and I will go over it in case you haven't, The committee has a new annual budget development calendar that has just been developed and approved as of September. And the purpose for this is to give us more clarity and more engagement with budget development. Heretofore in the past, we have had what I think is kind of a murky process of budget development, which leads to a lot of kind of ignorance and confusion out there about how the budget happens. And people want to have input. They want to share their ideas, what they think is important, and that's part of our own policy as a school committee. So we now have this calendar, which spells out for people all the different moving parts that go into the development of the budget every year, including actions by the school committee, school administration, the city, and what goes on at the state level, and how those things ultimately come together into our school budget. And it also outlines for people the many ways in which they can offer their input along the way. So I would encourage everyone, if you haven't already had a chance to check it out, go onto the school website, and under administration, you'll see the budget information page. And there you will find the FY26 budget development calendar, which is now posted there in English, Spanish, Russian, and Romanian. And the superintendent has included this in her recent updates as well, repeatedly. So people should find that readily accessible. And then the next thing that we did was to decide upon a manner of providing more outreach than has been done in the past. For gathering stakeholder input into budget development so that the committee can establish priorities in this upcoming budget. And again, in the past, folks have certainly been able to and have shared their input by the usual means of doing things like emailing the school committee or making public comment. And we strongly encourage people to continue doing that. But we also decided we wanted to take a more forward approach. So members, so as you know, the school committee approved this outreach plan last month, and members of Budget and Finance have been attending meetings of our PTOs and the GHS School Council in order to essentially conduct some listening sessions to hear from our parents and staff and students who may be at those meetings as to what's important to them in our budget. And I can't really say at this point, because I don't know all of the input yet, what exactly all of that will come out to, but I can say that we have already been out to PTOs at AEL, at GMS, and we are, I just went to the GHS School Council. The reason that is a school council outreach rather than a PTO is because there is not a PTO at GHS. And Federal Street actually also just occurred yesterday as well. We're looking forward to upcoming similar sessions at the PTO at Newton, as well as at the Discovery School at Four Corners. That will be Monday the 18th at 4:30 and Tuesday, December 3rd at 6, respectively. And I will also be doing the same thing with our CPAC, which is Special Education Parent Advisory Council, for those who don't know, and our LPAC, which is our English Learner Parent Advisory Council. And those are on Wednesday the 20th at 5 p.m. through Zoom, and on Thursday the 21st at 6 p.m. at the GMS library, respectively. All of this information in terms of dates and locations and what have you is going out weekly, has been going out through the superintendent's update, and has also been posted on our social media. So, and I just wanted to say in that context, just to respond to a mention during our public comment session about hearing things from Facebook or other entities online, I would just encourage folks to please rely upon the district's social media pages and not necessarily other sources if you're looking for reliable information. So please head on over to the Greenfield Public Schools Facebook page if you would like to catch up on the dates for all of these budget development discussions. So I'm looking forward to collating all of that information and bringing it back to school committee in December so that we can establish some priorities going into the budget season that is upcoming. And that's about all I have about the subcommittee. I did just want to add that just in terms of my own experience, Glenn, I relate to what you said about not necessarily knowing everything about your role because this being my first year chairing budget and finance is also a steep learning curve for me. So I just wanted to update you all about my activities last week at the MASC conference because I focused on attending as many budget-related sessions as I could, and there were some excellent trainings that I attended there, like I mentioned before, including one called the Student Opportunity Act is Working But, which was an excellent deep dive provided by MASC and Mass Budget into what is working and not working about the Student Opportunity Act. Also, the training that I mentioned earlier, which was entitled What Should Be in Your Budget Document. And I really enjoyed hearing from Worcester and Wellesley Public Schools and their business managers and our MASC field director, Tracy, in that training, and I'm looking forward to following up on that in budget and finance in terms of how we can improve our budget document. I also attended trainings on using data to inform school budgets and policy, securing top-notch school finance leaders, strategies that work, and special education financial issues, impact and management. So I just wanted to share that experience with you, and I'm looking forward to using all of that newfound information in our ongoing work on budget and finance.
Thank you. Other questions?
I just have a comment.
Please.
I would just like to thank Member Martini for her work on this. I can feel that she's put her whole heart and soul into this, and I really appreciate the outreach that she's doing, and I'm grateful. Thank you.
I second that. Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much, Member Martini. Policy and Program Subcommittee, we have listed here first read of policy JICA dress code, and I need to give you a lot of context, but basically we're not taking action on this tonight. So at the last meeting, we found basically kind of a typo or some missing words. We sent it to our attorney and asked him to please fill in the missing words. So we kind of thought there would just be non-substantive changes. When he took a fresh look at it, because he had seen it before, but when he took a fresh look at it, he saw many ways that it could be improved. So he provided a marked up copy of to us with many new changes, and basically it was going to come to you tonight as a first read of a substantively changed document. However, we had some version control issues, and the version in your packet is not the version that we want to put forward to you. So I guess I would take a motion to table the first read of policy JICA dress code to our December meeting.
So moved.
Motion from Member Childs. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Member Goodwin. Any discussion? Secretary Denis, will you call a vote?
So the second was Goodwin?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, Deneve, I'm a yes. Vice Chair Martini?
Yes.
Chair Johnson-Musad?
Yes.
Mayor DeSorger?
Yes.
Member Goodwin?
Yes.
Member Sexton?
Yes.
Member Childs?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. That is tabled. Community Engagement Subcommittee, Member Sexton.
All right. So I believe it was the 22nd of October that we had our very first Community Engagement Subcommittee meeting, at which time we reviewed a draft mission and function document, which basically lays out what our responsibility is and what we are supposed to be doing with our time as a function of that subcommittee. We did get some public comment, which was great. People knew it was happening. They came. That was exactly what we're trying to do there. And then we had a really good discussion about the draft that was provided to us. We made a few changes, which is not in your packet, but probably will be for next meeting. I think that you can probably find it on the meeting minutes from that meeting that should be on our website. But essentially what we wanted to revise was actually to make the language a lot more active. So instead of just attending various meetings, we also wanted to be able to host them, to call for them, to say we would like to do things rather than just showing up to the things that other people are doing. We wanted to give ourselves the latitude to also be proactively hearing things, and then maybe let's have a forum to discuss it, or let's have a listening session about X, Y, or Z thing. And that's basically what was reflective in all of the wording changes that were in here. And we also discussed that we, of course, want to make sure that the things that we're doing are in alignment with where the administration is wanting to go, so that we're not working at odds with each other, but actually really supporting one another with calling these meetings. Our next meeting, we decided, we voted to establish a regular meeting time as part of this, which is the third Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. The third Tuesday is next week. So our next meeting, if you want to come hang out with us, is Tuesday the 19th at 6 p.m. I believe it will likely be over Zoom unless I can secure a spot somewhere. And for that meeting, we'll actually be diving a little more deeply into our goals for the remainder of the academic year. So if you want to come and give us goals as the community, please do so. Otherwise, we'll discuss amongst ourselves. And that's pretty much what I got.
Thank you. Mayor, I see your hand up.
No, what
Oh.
happened again was I forgot, I'm putting it down, excuse me.
No problem.
President, yes, excuse me, Chair.
Any other questions or comments for community engagement? Thank you very much. Mask Division 5 representative, Member Deneve.
I have my Division 5 and my MASC conference and my legislative all-in-one report for you.
Wonderful.
Thank you for sending me to the Massachusetts Association of School Committees Hyannis Conference 4 days last week, which I attended with Member Sexton and Vice Chair Martini. My first panel was on how to incorporate policy review into your regular committee work and how to navigate the differences between procedure and policy. I chose this panel because we have recently completed our MASC policy review and are now ready for internal reviews to adjust our policies to our own Greenfield school culture. I wanted to make sure I understood the value for and reasoning behind that process. In order to bring additional info to member child safety research, I took how to create a therapy pet program in your district, which I think is something worth discussing because it is locally possible, volunteer-based, not expensive, supports social emotional learning practices, and has evidence-backed data for helping increase literacy rates. Having therapy pets in your school community regularly has been shown to increase feelings of safety for staff and students through lowering trauma responses and increasing joy. One of the most active programs began in Fitchburg and has been going strong for years. I also met school committee members from Athol who are using pets regularly in their buildings at both the elementary and secondary level. And there were pets there which we got to pet. So that was fun. My third panel was on securing school finance leaders, which I took with Vice Chair Martini. We learned new strategies to find finance leaders in the education environment and the private sector. Many finance officers would like to move out of the corporate world and into education, and we were given actionable steps to take when crafting new contracts and job descriptions. I also had a conversation with our MASC field director, Liz LaFond, about this panel and future training, and her suggestion was that we take the steps we learned and begin the process of meeting as a committee first to discuss what we would like to see in the future, prepare several documents and contract drafts, and then contact Margaret Driscoll at MASC, who is their finance officer brain trust, and have her come and give us a training, look at our progress, and make suggestions for next steps. I also took a panel on parent advisory councils. The purpose of this panel was to learn how to work with them in the district by including and inviting them into our committee reports and presentations, increasing their visibility in the buildings and district communications. We were also presented with a new policy, KBG, that requires the formation and support of specific PACs. The new policy language will be available in a few weeks, but I have forwarded an advance copy to the chair and superintendent for early review and adoption, and I have a hard copy for you. My fifth panel was on communication through crisis and controversy. This panel was given by a sponsor, so what I gleaned from it is the importance of having continuous communication across all platforms. Suggestions were to have a Facebook page that is connected to our web page with a good news tracker, showcasing all the positive work we are doing and how to create social media that is not comment enabled. My sixth panel was the big one I was interested in. It was the longest one I took. New funding for improving school facilities. This panel answered many of the questions we have all been having about capital improvements in our buildings. The basic gist is there are organizations we have not thought of who regularly step in to help maintain the older buildings, like Eversource. They have a program for this. Part of how that works is making a proactive plan as a committee now to decarbonize our school buildings completely. The idea being that if we come together and make statements of interest about older boilers and other fossil fuel energy users we'd like to remove, we would be very likely to get full funding for replacing these systems with heat pumps and new technology. I have 3 different organizations we can contact about this, one of which, Mass Clean Energy, was mentioned in public comment earlier and has a new and robust program beginning in January, which we should take advantage of. The MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, is also starting a brand new heat pump program in January, which we should look into right away. I will create a list of these resources and send it to the chair and superintendent next week, and hopefully we can have a special meeting about our facilities soon and get started on this work, because most of these programs begin in January, but not all of them are about HVAC. They cover all kinds of different facilities issues. Another thing that this panel covered was how to get started with new building projects, which is something we're just beginning to think about now, talking about the potential to have a new elementary school. We had our Division 5 meeting with our Division 5 colleagues, which covers the Connecticut Valley, and it felt very productive. We discussed the next steps we identified at the last day on the Hill. The plan is to bring our advocacy work now to plan virtual meetings with legislators throughout the winter and spring. Humaira Fasudin is the chair of Division 5. She and I plan to begin this work shortly. We will identify the current legislative priorities, and I will bring them to you all for approval. We have added new interested committees to our informal coalition. At the last day on the Hill, we went with 6 or 7 different school committees from mostly Western Massachusetts. We now have contacts with Pioneer Valley Regional, East Hampton, Worthington, and Amherst Pelham to bring on board for the next Day on the Hill event. Member Sexton and I also created an idea along with the Worthington School Committee and collaborative board member to meet with Division 5 members at the Northampton Collaborative to work on these regional issues and meet our other committee friends a little closer to home. We will let you know how that goes and invite you all when we have a date. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh yes, I reached out to Comerford's office about our high school boiler issue, and that resulted in a meeting between the mayor, superintendent, and Comerford's office last week to discuss, and the door is now open for future earmark requests with that office. Thank you very much for attending that meeting, and I think that was a really great first step towards working with our local legislators to fund some of these projects that are right at our doorstep. And that is my entire report.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Member Goodwin?
Just thank you for doing all of that.
You're welcome.
Just so much. Thank you.
It was so much, so I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Member Sexton?
I just think maybe Kate and I probably need to do a write-up similar to what you did, because Elizabeth just shared all the sessions that she went to, but Kate and I were also at our own sessions. We strategically divided. So we could talk even more, but we won't right now.
I appreciate
Yes.
you all for going, and appreciate you, Member Denis, for really leading the charge and inspiring everybody. Member Martini?
I was just going to say, Member Genevieve, this is why you win awards. Thank you
That's-
so much.
That's right, and the award that was announced a few months ago at this meeting was officially given to Elizabeth at the Mass Conference, so congratulations.
Thank you. I'll bring it next month so that Karen can add it to the pile of Greenfield awards.
Excellent, thank you. All right, it's 8:02. We can take a 5-minute break. resume our meeting. Sydney, are you ready? Okay. Great. We are returning from our break. We're on to old business, the new elementary school subcommittee. We had a motion to lay this motion on the table. The motion was to create an ad hoc subcommittee to research and present a proposal on whether to set a goal of constructing a new elementary school. I'd like to hear a motion to take this item up.
So
we
moved.
take it up from the table, okay. Motion from the secretary, and a second?
Second.
Second from Member Martini. Yeah, I think we have to have a motion to bring it up again. Any discussion on discussing the motion? Okay, Member Denis, will you call the vote?
This was on just taking up the,
Just
up the discussion.
discussing it tonight, yeah.
Denis Vimy, yes. Vice Chair Martini?
Yes.
Chair Johnson Musad?
Yes?
Mayor DeSorger?
Yes.
Member Goodwin?
Yes.
Member Sexton?
Yes.
Member Childs?
Yes.
All unanimous.
All right, great. So we are now taking up the motion to create an ad hoc subcommittee to research and present a proposal on whether to set a goal of constructing a new elementary school. Any discussion?
Well,
Member Child?
I'll comment if
Please.
there's not
Yep,
anybody
go ahead. Thanks.
in the room. Well, I brought this up because the committee has talked about this idea numerous times over the last couple of years, and understandably, redistricting took precedence. And I would like to have the committee consider this again, now formalizing this in terms of research and discussion, because I have concerns about the long-term and even fairly short-term sustainability of our elementary level facilities. And not to be exhaustive about it, but just among them, I would say that Newton School is 109 years old at this point in time. And I understand that the large addition is considerably newer than that, but it was still 1989. And we also have similarly aged school buildings. Four Corners is about to be 70. Federal Street School is almost 100 years old at this point. And I think we need to consider the health of our facilities, what they need right now, what they are at risk of needing in the near future, and what that means for the stability of our planning. For example, we did put through a fix for the elevator at Federal Street School at a cost of $75,000 this year. But my understanding from that discussion is that it was only a patch and that there was a possibility that it would break down more seriously and need to be replaced at that time at a cost of about $1 million. And of course, those costs will go up as time goes on. And it's not lost on me that a similar $1 million repair need was the driver behind the closure of Green River School, which then led to a great deal of upheaval for the district, moving grade levels around into the middle school and out of the middle school. And I feel concerned about what may be on the radar for us. I would not like to see the district in a similar position because of a lack of advanced planning about our facilities. So I would be interested in having a subcommittee tasked with the purpose of investigating the current health and risks and potential benefits of building a new school. That being said, I also wanted to just put out there, this could potentially be related to the next discussion on the agenda this evening, which is another proposal as to creating a subcommittee focused on safety. I just wanted to mention that in terms of history, the committee used to have a subcommittee that was entitled something along the lines of Health, Safety, and Facilities Subcommittee. And we had decided to eliminate it 2 or 3 years ago. And it sounds like both of these items would be appropriate for a subcommittee so titled, but I would be open to either idea.
So it sounds like you're open to either a ad hoc subcommittee with a limited focus on creating this proposal, or recreating a safety and facilities subcommittee who would be tasked with this same project to present the proposal.
That is correct.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Let's see, I see Member Goodwin and then Member Childs.
I think mine is more of a question. We used to have a facilities manager it was sort of their oversight of the buildings, which matches what Member Martini was just describing. Does that still exist?
Yes, Michael Boudreau is our facilities director.
Yeah, and I think that the school committee's role would be more like setting goals related to facilities, such as should we try to create a new building or other big picture things like that. Yep. Member Childs?
So from the city's construction committee, some of the things that I have picked up is that if we were doing a super accelerated timetable for a new building, we're looking at least a decade. So I think we all need to be clear that anything here, it's not, okay, we're closing the 3 elementary schools tomorrow. It's long-term planning. But something else that has been stressed on that committee is that the more planning you have in place before you do your grant application, because you're not doing any municipal building without state funding, the closer it is to getting what you want. So basically, this is a long-term plan, and as much planning as you can do as possible. And the environmental impact of these buildings is something that has been discussed at the Town Construction Committee as well, especially looking at HVAC, heating, and more than that, cooling at these older buildings that were built at times when May would not have 98-degree days. I don't know if we have 98-degree days yet here, but some days it feels like it. So just some context from the relevant city committee.
Thank you. Mayor DeSorger?
I think this is a great idea. And I would also like to say that the ad hoc committee, I feel I guess that you're thinking, or maybe whoever's bringing this forward would be thinking a subset of the school committee. And I'd like to thank you for serving on planning and construction. I think it's important to have somebody like from energy and sustainability who takes a look at the efficiency of all of the, subcommittee, of all of the buildings on this, their fuel use, et cetera. We spend a lot of time and energy looking at which buildings use the least fossil fuel. So I think it's important to look at this and maybe to have, a few people that are a subset of this committee, but maybe using somebody from energy and sustainability on this. So the makeup of the committee would be important to me, but I do think it's a very good idea. I know, Anne, you've looked at all of the buildings, and financially, I don't think we can look at building anything until 2035 because of our borrowings. And there are different departments that have different needs. I know Anne has looked at, City Hall. But I think it's a very good point about how old the schools are and whether it's a good idea to have all of the elementary children in one school. Would that help with some of the things that we're having issues with lack of diversity in some schools or possible lack of diversity in some schools? So I definitely would vote in favor of this, but I would like to talk about the makeup of the committee.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Looks like Member Sexton and then Member Martini.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I would be in favor of creating this, somewhat agnostic about whether or not it's a subcommittee versus a new standing committee, although if we're talking a 10-year time frame, it might be worth it to have the standing committee just because other things might come up that would fit under their purview rather than having a multitude of ad hoc committees. But I think that it is prudent for us to be asking these questions, and if we don't start it now, someone else is just gonna have to start it even later, and that could compound our problems moving forward.
Other questions or comments? Member Goodwin? Oh, Member Martini, sorry, I think I'd said.
Okay. I was just going to echo Member Childs about the need for this to be a 10-year plan. It's not something that can be picked up and done quickly by any means, which is part of the reason why I think the committee needs to formalize an approach to this now. And I am also mindful of what the mayor just brought up in terms of our city debt obligations, because 2035 is, that's 9 years away now, and that fits pretty well with a 10-year plan. So, and I appreciate what Member Sexton just said about it making more sense to make it a standing committee, given the long-range nature of the planning.
Thank you. Member Goodwin?
I think this is a good idea to start the conversation, but as a principal of construction, I mean, one of the things I learned through that process is that you have to monitor the state, and all of a sudden the state will release money and encourage cities to apply, which is why a lot of middle schools were built in the year 2000. And you may not be having those conversations and they happen too fast. So I think this is a good idea, and monitoring how the rules change. I'll give you a good example. In the year 2000, a team of people came to Greenfield Middle School and also South Hadley Middle School, and we were told that if we wanted extra space in our classrooms, we would ask for greenhouses. None of us wanted greenhouses. At that time, we wanted extra space in our classrooms because they were very small, what the state designated for children at that time. We all got greenhouses and no extra space.
Thank you for the history. Other questions or comments? Okay. Well, here's my thinking is a little fuzzy. It seems obvious we need a new elementary school at some point. The current motion is about presenting a proposal on whether to set a goal of constructing one, but the way everyone's talking, it sort of sounds like, well, obviously they're going to come back to us and tell us yes. But am I wrong about that? Is there going to be any argument against trying to get Member Childs?
So the argument that came up at the construction committee was about walkable towns and neighborhood schools. So I do know that there will be some people who support the smaller schools and the smaller walking distances.
Right, so
The sustainability, how much can these buildings be nurtured and retrofitted with better technology? So, yeah. There will be some people who are against a new school, just saying that.
right, and the way it's phrased, is it assumed that if we set a goal of constructing a new elementary school, it would be a single elementary school for the whole town? Is that the way people are thinking about? I'm seeing some people nodding yes and some people nodding no. So I guess that would be part of the committee's work, would be to look into that, the funding environment, walkability, neighborhood schools, yeah, all those different issues, other pros that there may be for having a single school. So let's see, well, I'm also aware that it is November, and in January there will be, usually reassignment of subcommittees. So maybe we think about, maybe I could come back to you next month with a proposal of how to structure the work, talk to the superintendent, talk to the mayor, and look at the possibility of doing a standing committee. So maybe we don't take action on this tonight. What do people think? I'm seeing nodding heads. All right. So then I guess the question is whether we vote on this current motion or just essentially vote it down for the time being with the understanding that we'll come back to this next month. Any preferences from people about how we handle that? Member Deneve?
I'd like to see it come back next month.
Yeah.
Because I have notes here saying that I'm wanting to request a meeting about building facilities. Maybe there's a larger umbrella to discuss keeping our current facilities up to date, learning how to utilize state programs, getting comfortable with that, and also kind of leveraging all of this into learning about how to build a new elementary school. That's going to be quite a journey for all of us. And there will probably all be gone by the time that this is built. So we want to do the work, I think, thoughtfully and as proactively as possible with as much information for the future people that are coming after us to have.
Okay. Member Childs? I'm sorry, Member Goodwin?
And some communities are giving great thought to not just building a school, but building a school attached to a YMCA, building a school attached to a public library, looking at, a 24-hour childcare by having, the Y attached to the school. So I think it's wise for communities when it comes to funding to look at what other types of buildings schools can be attached to that help with the overall picture. North Adams has a large elementary school. It's the newest one, which is attached to the YMCA. So the children have before school care, after school care. And the Y has a separate parking lot, but it's actually well done. And I think in Greenfield, we kind of think silo-based, where we have to have this building, that building, that building, but looking at how we can connect those two projects are usually well received by state funders. And there are other things that Greenfield desperately needs as well.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Member Sexton?
This is just one of the many exciting things that I learned while I was at the conference. I took a session on Robert's Rules, because I'm that kind of person.
Nice.
And the technical term for what we're wanting to do right now is postpone.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, with your Robert's Rules experience, Member Sexton, will you please make a motion?
Are you wanting this in December or January?
I think we should, well, what do people think? Do we want November, do we want December or January? Yeah, okay, December.
Great. Then I would like to make a motion to postpone the discussion of the new elementary school subcommittee the discussion and vote, to the December school committee meeting.
I'll second that.
And I see Mayor DeZorger. Sorry. Oh, you put your hand down and didn't unmute, and maybe you wanted to unmute too?
Yes,
Great.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Oh, you're all set. Okay, great. Any discussion? All right. Secretary Deneve, will you call the vote?
Deneve, I'm a yes. Vice Chair Martini?
Yes.
Chair Johnson-Masad?
Yes.
Mayor DeSorger?
Yes.
Member Goodwin? Member Sexton?
Yes.
Member Childs?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Great discussion. Let's see. Member Childs was tasked with giving us research and potential recommendations around school safety needs. Member Childs?
Okay, so I've spent the past month interviewing interested parties, attending various meetings, reading academic studies on as many facets of school safety, including but not limited to school discipline strategies, various support personnel roles, emotional support dogs, and even teenage circadian rhythms. While the research, let alone a comprehensible report on said research, is more than what can be realistically done in 1 month, I do have 2 items of action to present to the school committee tonight. But first, I have a little bit of relevant information. You'll find it repeats some things that have already been said tonight, but it's also part of the study, so. On the topic of communication, it should be known that Superintendent Patnode and Chief Dodge are continuing to actively work together. And additionally, Superintendent Patnode has been working on improving communication with other city departments by representing the school department at city department head meetings. So, good movements there. Shifting topics, restorative practices have come up a lot in both research and interviews, and also tonight in public comment. As an update on what's going on, though there's more in depth in the superintendent update tonight, Superintendent Patnode has been working with numerous entities, FERCOG, CTC, CES, on restorative practice research and training for the schools. Ultimately, restorative practices aren't a one-and-done training. They require long-term commitment, including financial. While we have started the process, quality restorative practice implementation takes time, work, and ongoing support. All that said, let's move on to what we can do now. First recommendation, I'll move that the school committee enter into an MOU with the Greenfield Police Department regarding remote access to security cameras during emergency situations. Very recently, the district invested heavily in modernizing and upgrading the physical security of the schools. Superintendent Patnode has already provided the first responder access to the physical buildings to the police department and fire department as well. Remote camera access for the police department requires a memorandum of understanding approved by the district's legal counsel. My second recommendation would be to move that the school committee work with the superintendent on a safety survey for school staff.
Thank you very much. I guess first we'll take up your motions, but first let's see if there's questions or comments from the committee. Member Goodwin?
I just want to thank you so much for all of it. You are like an investigative reporter that just keeps on going. And so I really thank you because you've been everywhere, and people who I know have come to me and said, she asked great questions, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments before we take up those motions? Member Sexton?
I was just curious if, like, what were some of the more common themes that emerged from people, like, not just the academic literature, but.
The answer to that is definitely yes. It's all over the map. I have not finished correlating all the data because there are still people who have expressed interest in talking to me, and anyone who wants to talk to me, I am going to listen. Restorative practices have been one of the #1 things coming up. And also, there's been a surprising amount of building things that have come up, just really, specific building, like questions about this window here or that door there. So that was interesting to see. Trying to think of other thematics, because of course the SRO question has come up, both for and against, and there have been some great discussions from that about what makes a safe person for kids to go to, who can fill that role, what are the pros and cons for various kinds of people filling that role. And of course, school discipline comes up, and so you'll see absolute rejection of zero tolerance kind of policies. It's kind of funny to be like, zero tolerance for zero tolerance, because our community, in my conversations with them, been very much about the holistic interests of the child and creating the kind of environment where a kid can make a mistake and then make things right without being penalized in ways that will interrupt their school career.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Just based on the feedback we've been getting by email and many people coming in public comment, I just thought it would be useful as part of the context of this discussion to review what our motion was last month. There was a motion that the school committee begin a comprehensive study and deliberation process to evaluate the potential addition of a school resource officer to our school district. And that was voted down 5-2. So I just wanted, I'm not sure that that motion really got all of the distribution and communication that it needed. So I'm just trying to amplify that was the vote we made last month. Great. So then why don't we take your motions one at a time, Member Childs?
Okay, so for the first one, I move that the school committee enter into an MOU with the Greenfield Police Department regarding remote access to security cameras during emergency situations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Well, was there was a second from Mayor Disorder. Yes, discussion. Member Goodwin?
I think the question I have is, there must be some legal component to this that maybe the superintendent should look into before, because schools have certain legal responsibilities and the police are very different than the schools. So giving them access even during an emergency, I think I would just want some attorney to kind of weigh in on that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think before we take a vote, we should get some more information. The superintendent should weigh in on this.
I think part of the motion is that we would not be writing the memorandum of agreement. Our attorney would be.
Member Martini?
I was just going to also say that I would like the input and opinion of the superintendent about this issue, and also I'm just mindful of the fact that typically when the school committee does need to have a discussion that's pertinent to the security of our schools, that we don't do that in open session because that actually damages the security of our schools. So I'm not sure that I feel 100% comfortable with this on this agenda tonight.
Superintendent?
And I would like an opinion from our superintendent and from the attorney as to which venue it's appropriate to have a discussion about this or parts of it.
I did do that, Kate, before this evening. So having the MOA on a public session was an acceptable conversation to have, because the specifics of the security system and what we would be discussing was not compromising school safety. If it gets into the specifics where folks want to know, numbers of things or locations of things or access, et cetera, that would have to move to executive session, but that this topic to enter into an agreement for emergency purposes only was just simply to take up the MOU.
Thank you.
Member Sexton?
Can I reasonably expect that the definition of an emergency situation, I know it sounds silly to be asking for that, but that would be spelled out in that MOU? Because I want to make sure that we're not giving them access to just look at our cameras whenever they think something might have happened, but only when we ask them to.
I think if you vote yes, the draft would be for you to review first before it is actually imposed.
Member Childs?
The example MOUs I've read from other districts do specify out. I didn't want to bring any because I didn't want to have that as though we were promising to do that before our lawyer could look at it and see. But there are a whole bunch of them all over the internet that do lay out all of the details.
Thank you. Other discussion or questions? All right. Secretary Geneve, will you call the vote?
Yes. We'll go backwards for fun. Member Childs?
Yes.
Member Sexton?
Yes.
Member Goodwin?
Yes.
Mayor DeSorger?
Yes.
Chair Johnson-Masad?
Yes.
Vice Chair Martini?
Yes.
And Deneve, I'm a yes. So it passes unanimously.
Thank you. On to your next motion, Member Childs.
So the second motion, I move that the school committee work with the superintendent on a safety survey for school staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Member Childs, can you talk about it?
So part of this is because one of the voices that has been harder to get, especially in bulk, are the people who are actively in our buildings, working with our kids day in, day out. We need to have a preponderance of feedback from them. They're going to identify things that people on the outside simply can't see. They're the ones who we are trying to support, so we need to find out what support they need.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Superintendent, do you have any thoughts about that?
Member Childs and I did discuss this, and I think through our communications person, we can craft something in a way where we could get the feedback that we're looking for. I think some of the hesitation was around just identifiable markers and not wanting to be the sole voice for a collective group. So I think if we do this in a way that is thoughtful and really addresses that the need is to support them, I think we could craft something that would be acceptable, and we can always discuss with the union first before allowing it to be pushed out. So I think we have some good avenues that we could go down.
Other questions or comments? Member Martini?
What would be the feasible timeline on that?
What would be the timeline? Superintendent?
I would think that probably a 2-week turnaround with just the communication person to craft questions. We have a union meeting the first Monday of every month, so if we could potentially get it to them by that December 2nd date, I think, they could review it and weigh in on the survey contents and then see how we could push it out. So I'm not sure we'd actually have the results by the December meeting, but that you at least could have maybe a finalized version that they would be willing to give their input on.
Other questions or comments? Member Childs, when you were looking into this, did you find that the Greenfield Public Schools are notably more or less safe than other schools?
I did not find any evidence that we were anything out of the norm when compared to our peer schools, meaning similar demographics, similar towns.
Okay, I mean, I'm happy to have a survey and learn. I always want to learn, from our staff, but it just feels like the reason we're taking this up is somebody asked to have school resource officer on an agenda, and then it kind of caused a big community discussion. But I just want to kind of emphasize that there isn't, as far as we know, anything out of the ordinary happening in our schools around safety. And so I'm not sure why it's a strategic choice for us to put energy and attention into it. It seems like the superintendent is working with the police department. It does sound like it was very useful, that first motion you brought up. But I don't remember us as a school committee deciding that this was a strategic priority for us. So I'm just not sure why we are wanting to, I guess, gather more data or do more. It's like as the superintendent has reported, she's working on, the ways of trying to create a new culture, revitalizing that effort. It's taking time, but it's moving forward. So I don't know, I guess I would like to hear from people, maybe from you, Member Childs, about why you think we should do this.
So what's the norm now is not the same as what the pre-COVID norm was. And the problems we're having are indeed problems that are countrywide, of the kids who came back after COVID and have lots of behavioral disruptions. From the interviews I've done, it's quite clear to me that this is something that the community wants us to be actively looking into. And because that is the will of the community people that I've spoken with, I think the school committee should be supporting the superintendent in these programs. And one of the ways to do so is gathering the data, not from the community, but from the people inside the school.
Thank you. Member Sexton?
I agree with what Member Childs just laid out, but I also wanted to add that I think, I would actually be curious if you were already planning to do some sort of survey since you're in year 0 of the restorative justice work, where you were gathering data and laying out some ground foundational stuff. I see this as being supportive of that. And while it might be true that, in fact, we are not out of the norm, the perception amongst members of our community is not necessarily that, right? And I think the things that we can do to provide concrete evidence from our community to our community, because there's been some resistance to relying on studies from outside of Greenfield, I think that would do a lot to build back trust and to assuage people's fears and concerns. I actually wanted to expand the scope of the motion to include students as well, not just staff.
Member Deneve?
One of the things that I've learned from all of this endless workshopping with MASC is about how incredibly long it takes for your new superintendent to change the school culture and to move things forward. And it's not something that any superintendent can do in a year or two. This is a multi-year journey. And so we can't really expect to see extreme significant change for the first 5 years, really. That's what they've taught us. So I'm really encouraged by learning through survey work what the students and the staff feel about safety and how they feel in general in their workplace and their community place. But I'd like to see it followed up again. So if we do one this year, I'd like to see one in 2 or 3 years, and then I'd like to see one again in 2 or 3 years, because that's the only real measure of the long-term work that we're going to need to see and want to see and will see from Karen's tenure as a superintendent, because she needs time to enact all of these things that she's working on. And so I'd like to give her all of that time and just find out what's really going on at different intervals throughout that time.
Thank you. Member Goodwin?
One of the things that we're charged with is that fiscal responsibility, and a lot of the things that are going to lead to the perception of school safety, whether it's cameras, whether it's professional development, all takes money. And so having data to support our funds, or we may find out that there's a perception that is wrong, which is fine, but at least we've addressed it. And I think any school district that is making school safety a priority is one where people want their children to be. So it's a good priority to have, but it also requires funds. And when we look at our budget, when we make decisions about funding something that takes a long time to put into place, we want data.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? I would add that, Member Martini?
I'll just reiterate a little bit of what I said at the last city council meeting, at which councilors had questions in regards to the vote that we recently took in regards to not resurrecting the SRO program. And I invited city council members, and I would invite everyone to utilize the information available on the DESE website about our school district, because there's a wealth of information on there. And part of it is about student behavior, which seems to be the biggest part of this conversation, although gun violence seems to be a second. And I just wanted to share what I gleaned from there, which is that as a school district, we used to hover about 8 or 9% each year, it seemed, of our student body, incurring some form of discipline for infractions ranging everywhere from vandalism to vaping to assault. That's all, it's all available on there and broken down by different subgroups of students and things like that. And I just wanted to put this conversation in context because I feel like I kind of feel bad that our students have gotten a bit of a bad rap in this recent community conversation. You know, in the past, like I said, we used to hover around 8 or 9% of our student body incurring some form of disciplinary infraction on there. And we had, as everybody knows, a pretty rough year in 2021 on the return to school. Especially that fall, it was extremely difficult. But even then, it wasn't a huge uptick. It was more like 10 point something percent that year. And then since then, it dropped to 5, which is a 50% drop in the course of a year, and it's lower than it was before the pandemic. It means 95% of our students stayed out of trouble for the most recent reportable year. On there, and 5% of our students need help. So I wanted to just share my observations from that. And in terms of this survey, I love data, and I appreciate Member Deneve's comments, because data is only useful if you can track it over time. And so I'm not sure that a motion for one survey is the most useful approach. And I would also want to make sure that it's actually useful for the superintendent and not just yet another thing to do. So I don't know how this fits in with the superintendent's comprehensive plans as detailed in the update that we just received. And in the more detailed information that is in our materials, in terms of the direction that has been provided through the collaborative's work, through the listening that they've done. So, Karen, do you have any feedback on this? Is this helpful to you? Is this another thing to do? And also, when I asked what the timeline was, the answer I was not expecting was 2 weeks. You have so much on your plate right now with the DESE site review and everything else that I was surprised by that. You're always so responsive, and I appreciate that, but I don't want to be overtaxing you.
I think if the direction that the committee would like to go in is the planning and thoughtful implementation of restorative practice work, I think then holding off potentially on this survey and in trying to gather this information until that committee is formed, because then other components and stakeholders of who's in our buildings every day, AKA our students, would also be part of that committee, and then we could form the survey around the direction that all of those members want to see that work go. If it's just to kind of get a temperature gauge on staff's opinions of what's been happening the last few months in these conversations, then I think that's a different track. But I think potentially if we do get the committee off the ground and we start the deep dive into the planning of how restorative justice work can be part of the culture of Greenfield Public Schools, then I think holding off might benefit us, just to get a handle on who's going to be part of this planning and how we're going to roll it out.
Member Martini?
About when do you think that committee would be formed? And the answer I am expecting is not 2 weeks.
We obviously would love the interaction with the collaborative and having them be a partner in this work. So after our meeting yesterday with the collaborative, they asked us for obviously some budgetary constraints for the district and some timelines on that. So we're doing a little behind the scenes work, and then they're doing a little behind the scenes work based on the 2022 work they started with the district. And then we're meeting December 12th as a follow-up. So I would think in the new year after that, because potentially at the December meeting, we'll be asking for potential budget funds to support whatever, kind of proposal they've provided the district with and go from there. But it probably would not be until January or February, Kate.
Anyone else, questions or comments? I guess one place my mind is going is sort of similar to what you were saying, Superintendent, which is that with these types of programs, like a restorative justice program, there are usually best practices about how to go about gathering information from people, which people, when, how. And so knowing that we are going to be doing that work and we will be involving staff in that, I don't want them to get survey fatigue, like we ask you now to take your temperature, but now we're coming back later for this more substantive information. So I guess for that, my personal vote on this will be no, but only given that we know we're going to be involving staff and students in the restorative justice planning. Member Childs?
Would you like me to just withdraw it because it's going to be covered by the other committee later on?
I mean, that would be my preference, but what do you want? You're the one who made the motion.
I'm fine withdrawing it and getting that data a couple months down the line instead, and having it shaped by our programs that we're trying to develop for restorative justice. So unless someone else has a strong opinion and really wants it to be voted on right now, I'm fine withdrawing it.
I'm not seeing any strong opinions, so I think you can withdraw. Great discussion, though. Thank you so much. And do you have any other motions for us? No? Okay. Thank you very, very much for your hard work on that. Let's see. Now we're on to the school committee year-long agenda. We're once again thanking Secretary Deneve. This is a best practice for school committees to have a year-long agenda, and Secretary Deneve was nice enough to stop waiting for me to get around to putting out a draft and to give us a draft herself. So with that, Secretary Deneve, do you want to talk to us?
This was just, Member Sexton and I had a lovely dinner and decided to just do this work and give you all a gift.
It's a beautiful gift.
Really, it was just some light business work over some curry. And honestly, this is just for you to start the process, you and Karen. And really, it's lovely that you added comments. And of course, we want to be a part of it because we want to know what's going on and what to expect throughout the year. But really, just take it as a gift that it was intended to be, and please feel free to delete things and move things around, because honestly, like, I didn't know if something belonged in February or October. I mean, we really didn't know. So that's entirely up to you to format it so that we understand what you expect, so we can just follow along.
Wonderful, thank you. So one well, I think that Karen and I would both really appreciate people's thoughts on it. So if people have questions or comments or feedback on what's presented tonight, we would love to hear that. Does anyone have any feedback right now? Yes, Member Goodwin?
I think more knowledge about special education, because I just saw a negative 2 million that just raised my blood pressure. So more knowledge about the costs of special ed. I mean, how many children, I'm not looking for names or anything, but we see all these numbers and we know that they are special ed, but we're not quite sure annually what we're paying versus circuit breaker, especially since I know there's some people here who will go to their legislatures and look for more funding. So I know circuit breaker never covers the full cost of everything, but I think I would love a presentation about the costs of special ed. I don't know if one person has all those numbers. And I know it's constantly changing, but there should be some way to, even know how much it changes. Are we, I guess, just that information, because I try to figure it out as I'm looking through different things, like how many kids are going to the May Institute, how many kids are going here, and then there's the busing pieces, and trying to figure all of that out. I think it would be helpful for whoever has that control of the numbers or the data to present to us prior to talking about budgets and everything else.
Thank you. Other feedback on the year-long agenda that Elizabeth presented? Member Childs?
Thanks for doing it so I didn't have to.
It's a gift to all of us.
I'm sorry, it's a hot mess, but
we'll take it.
you'll take care of it, I'm sure.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Not seeing any. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 10, request for future agenda items. All right, let's see. Oh, we got Member Deneve. We'll start with you.
I'd like to have a meeting to discuss the business manager contract, and I don't know what venue is the most appropriate for that. And Just because it's important to discuss contracts before they are looming and figure out what we'd like to do and how we'd like to move forward in whatever way that we do. Preferably soon, though, because if MASC is going to come out and do a training, they definitely wanted us to be sort of starting to step towards whatever our eventual goal is.
Okay, so well, I was thinking that the mask presentation would provide us useful context in deciding which way we want to go. So maybe we would do the presentation for mask followed by the agenda item about which, we can discuss in a public session. There are certain parameters, but we can discuss in a public session about whether we want to continue with a vendor or try to hire an employee. So we can do that in December.
And then have a training, maybe, I don't know if we'd have to have a special meeting for a training, but if we had one, I know we're pushing into Christmas at that point, but if we had one a few weeks later.
Maybe I'm not following what the training is?
Well, I don't know what kind of training you want to have, but when I spoke with Liz LaFont, she said, make sure that you guys have an outline of what you're looking to do, so that when they come to talk to us, because it might not be Liz, it might be Margaret Driscoll, who normally handles those kinds of things, and she did the training that I took on school business officers. They would like to come in and kind of have an idea of what we're thinking about. Are we just wanting to revamp a contract, or are we wanting to go in another direction? And that would involve her telling us different things.
I guess it's a bit of a chicken and the egg thing. I kind of feel like the committee needs a general overview, and that's kind of what I thought that the committee directed us to do last month, was provide some context of like have mass provide some context, and then we can use that context to have some deliberations and make some choices. So I was thinking that both those would happen at the December meeting, but maybe we can talk more and I can try to understand more or talk to Liz about like what exactly, hear from her directly exactly what she wants us to do in what order. Yeah. But thank you. We will take that on. Member Sexton?
Yeah, this is not necessarily for next month, unless we just happen to have some free time on our agenda. But I don't want us to lose sight of the work we started about the other best practice, which is having school committee goals.
Yep.
Thank you.
I will say this committee is not bad at setting goals. we are setting goals every meeting, I've noticed, but yeah, we will take a look at that best practice, and try to embody more of that. And I'm really proud of how we as a committee have taken on so many of the best practices, and there's been so much initiative from people, and just also implementing things that were in our policy manual that weren't being implemented. So we're really building something. It does take time, but thank you. We will get back to that. Other requests for future agenda items? Member Goodwin.
I think hearing from different departments, whether it's special ed, presentation, the arts, like what's being offered where and when and who, and all of that changes from year to year. Some parents know it, I don't know it. I think facilities might be a good one, because we're interested in that, hearing from the person who actually is responsible for that, and what the priorities that person sees every day when he walks into buildings. He knows where the roofs leak, and he knows where things are not what we want them to be. And all of that impacts budget. And so I think hearing from people in different departments, it would be nice to have that scheduled, like if it's one person a meeting or two people a meeting. It was wonderful tonight to have recognition of staff and children. I love that. I think that's, and of course, you know, many of them were minute in heart. So I think hearing from those people would be a great thing.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? I mean, other requests for future agenda items? Not hearing any, I would hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion from Member Childs, a second from Member Sexton. Discussion? Secretary Geneve, will you call the vote?
Geneve, I'm a yes. Vice Chair Martini?
Yes.
Chair Johnson Masad?
Yes.
Mayor DeSorger?
Yes.
Member Goodwin?
Yes.
Member Childs?
Yes.
Member Sexton?
Yes.
We're adjourned at 9:09.